Infinite scroll. The feature was designed in 2006 by a UX designer named Asa Raskin, the same person who had already invented pull to refresh, that satisfying little tug you give your feed to check for new content. He spent about 2 hours coding infinite scroll. Then he spent the next decade publicly apologizing for it. Here's what it actually does to you. Every natural stopping point in human behavior, the bottom of a page, a loading screen, a chapter break, is a moment your brain uses to ask itself whether it still wants to keep going. Infinite scroll eliminates all of those moments. The content just keeps coming, and your brain never gets the prompt to reevaluate. It's the same reason casinos have no clocks and no windows. Remove the cues that tell you time is passing, and people stay far longer than they ever intended. Raskin estimated that infinite scroll is responsible for roughly 200,000 additional hours of scrolling every single day, across just one platform. He called it a slot machine in your pocket. The tragedy is that it doesn't even feel coercive. You think you're choosing to keep watching. You're not choosing anything. The choice was quietly removed before you ever opened the app. Like counts and social validation loops. Every time you post something and then check back to see how many likes it has, you're doing something your brain understands as gambling. The mechanism is almost identical to a slot machine. Variable reward on an unpredictable schedule. Sometimes you pull the lever and get nothing. Sometimes you get 50 likes in an hour. That unpredictability is precisely what makes the behavior compulsive. Your brain releases dopamine not when the reward arrives, but in anticipation of it. The engineers who built these systems knew exactly what they were doing. Former Facebook VP Chamath Palihapitiya told an audience at Stanford in 2017 that the platform was deliberately built with short-term, dopamine-driven feedback loops, and that he felt tremendous guilt about it. But the manipulation goes deeper than personal addiction. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch ran a series of experiments where he asked people to match the length of lines on cards, an absurdly easy task. When the other people in the room confidently gave the wrong answer, roughly 75% of participants went along with them at least once, abandoning their own correct judgment to match the group. Social media has automated this experiment and runs it on you continuously. A post with 40,000 likes feels true. A post with 12 feels fringe. The number doesn't measure accuracy, it measures virality. Your brain doesn't always know the difference. Negativity bias exploitation. Your brain has been running threat detection software for about 200,000 years, and it's very good at its job. Bad news gets processed faster, remembered longer, and weighted more heavily than good news. Because for most of human history, missing a threat was fatal, and missing an opportunity was just unfortunate. Platforms figured out how to monetize this ancient wiring. Content that generates fear, outrage, or disgust drives roughly 3 times more engagement than neutral content. Not because people enjoy feeling terrible, but because the brain involuntarily prioritizes it. The recommendation algorithm doesn't know or care what's true or healthy. It just knows what you click, what you slow down for, and what makes you comment in all caps. So it serves you more of that. What you end up with is a feed that isn't remotely representative of the world. It's a highly curated highlight reel of everything going wrong. Crime, conflict, catastrophe, stitched together to maximize the time your eyeballs spend on the screen. Studies tracking mental health outcomes alongside social media use have consistently found elevated rates of anxiety and depression in heavy users. And the negativity bias loop is one of the primary mechanisms researchers point to. The world is not as bad as your feed. Your feed is just better at finding the bad parts.
Algorithmic echo chambers. Personalization sounds like a good thing. The app learns what you like and shows you more of it. Convenient. The problem is that what you like and what is accurate are completely different categories, and the algorithm only optimizes for one of them. Over time, the system progressively filters out anything that challenges your existing beliefs, not because it's trying to radicalize you,
but because disagreement tends to reduce engagement, and engagement is the metric being maximized. You end up in a hall of mirrors. Every piece of content you see reflects and reinforces what you already think, until the version of reality in your feed and the actual version of reality have almost nothing to do with each other. The radicalization research on this is striking. Academics studying YouTube's recommendation system found that users weren't typically converted by a single extreme video. They were nudged. Mild content led to slightly more intense content, which led to more intense content again. Hundreds of small steps, none of them alarming on their own, across weeks or months. By the time someone arrives at genuinely extreme views, they have no memory of the journey because each individual step felt completely normal. And here's the part that's easy to miss. This doesn't just happen to people you'd consider susceptible. It happens proportionally to everyone. The algorithm doesn't discriminate. It just follows whatever direction your clicks point and keeps walking that way. Emotional rhetoric and outrage bait. In 2023, Google's Jigsaw unit, the internal team that studies information warfare, published research identifying the 5 manipulation techniques spreading fastest across social platforms. Emotional rhetoric was at the top of the list. The way it works is straightforward. Content engineered to make you feel viscerally angry or afraid triggers your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for threat response. When that system activates, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for evaluating whether something is actually true, gets partially overridden. You share the post before you fact-checked it. You form an opinion before you finished reading. The content doesn't need to be accurate to be effective. It just needs to hit the right emotional register. Platforms amplify this because outrage-driven content generates comments, shares, and watch time at rates that calm, accurate reporting simply cannot match. A headline that makes you furious about a political opponent travels 5 times further than a headline that informs you about policy. Jigsaw's 7-study experiment, run across both controlled lab conditions and a real YouTube field study of 22,632 viewers, confirmed that most people have almost no natural resistance to this technique. Even after being explicitly told how it works, even after watching a video explaining it, recognition of emotional manipulation only improved by about 5%. The other 95% still slips through.
False dichotomies. You're either with us or against us. You either support this policy completely or you hate the people it's supposed to help. You're either a patriot or a traitor. Pick a side. This is one of the oldest manipulation techniques in recorded rhetoric, and it's been specifically flagged by Jigsaw's researchers as a primary tool in coordinated influence campaigns, because it works, and it scales perfectly on social media. Most real issues exist on a spectrum. There are trade-offs, competing values, legitimate disagreements between reasonable people. False dichotomies collapse all of that into 2 boxes and tell you that anyone who hesitates to climb into one of them is the enemy. The reason this is particularly dangerous on algorithmic platforms is the echo chamber effect compounds it. If your feed has already filtered out moderate or opposing perspectives, and every piece of content you see frames the issue as binary, the false choice starts to feel self-evidently true. Compromise begins to feel like cowardice. Nuance begins to feel like betrayal. Jigsaw's research identifies this as one of the mechanisms most responsible for accelerating political polarization, not through dramatic conversion, but through the slow erosion of the middle ground until it disappears entirely from view. Ad hominem attacks and scapegoating. An ad hominem is when you stop arguing against someone's idea and start attacking the person instead. It's a logical fallacy that's been identified and named since ancient Greece. It's also one of the most effective things you can do on social media. Attacking an argument requires thinking. Attacking a person requires only tribal loyalty, and tribal loyalty travels faster, generates more engagement, and feels more satisfying in the short term than careful reasoning. Noam Chomsky identified scapegoating as a cornerstone of mass media manipulation decades ago. Take a complex social or economic problem, assign blame to a specific identifiable group, and redirect public anger away from systemic causes
toward human targets. Social media hasn't invented this tactic. It's automated the delivery mechanism. What once required a coordinated media apparatus now requires a few viral posts and a recommendation algorithm. The result is that entire categories of public discourse have shifted from, "Is this policy good?" to, "Is this person evil?" And platforms profit from that shift because outrage at people generates more consistent engagement than outrage at abstractions. Jigsaw found that scapegoating already had a higher baseline detection rate than most manipulation techniques. People are somewhat aware it exists. The problem is that awareness doesn't reliably prevent it from working. You can know exactly what a trap looks like and still fall into it when the emotional pull is strong enough. AI emotional state detection. Everything we've covered so far, the scroll design, the dopamine loops, the outrage bait, was largely built by humans making deliberate choices. This one is different. Platforms now deploy machine learning systems that infer your real-time emotional state from behavioral signals you're not even conscious of. How fast you're scrolling, where you pause, how long you hover over something before moving on, whether your typing pattern changes when you're agitated. You're not filling out a mood survey. The AI is reading you continuously, passively, without your knowledge. And once it has a model of your current emotional state, it uses that information to select the next piece of content, not to make you feel better, but to keep you in whatever state drives the highest engagement. If you're already anxious, anxiety content keeps you scrolling. If you're already angry, more anger extends your session. The system isn't trying to hurt you. It doesn't have intentions. It's just optimizing a number. And the number it's optimizing has nothing to do with your well-being. The scale of this profiling is genuinely difficult to comprehend. It happens across billions of users simultaneously, in real time, with no human reviewing individual decisions. Jigsaw's research found that even after users were shown explicit explanations of how this targeting works, manipulation recognition only improved by 5%. Which means after everything, after understanding infinite scroll, after knowing about dopamine loops, after reading this list, 95% of the manipulation these systems deliver still lands. The platforms know that. They're counting